So I thought I would do another one of my spilling the tea videos. And the question in this one was about the cats, Amber and Topsy. How did they come about? Many years ago, and I've had them longer than I think now, and it must be about 6 years, possibly 7, I'm not quite sure. I contacted a local shelter and said I was interested in having a cat. So they came to the house, they assessed the place, and they went, yes, it's great. Everything a cat would need is here. So I said I would like a black cat. So the date was set for me to go and visit the shelter. And I went in. I think I'd been there the week before. But I went in on this day because they had an open day on a Sunday. And she said, we've got a black cat. We've got 2 black cats. Come and have a look. So I went in. And in this cage, because they all lived in these little cages, there were 2 tiny black kittens. But they had had them there in that cage for about a year because black cats are not popular. So everybody that came went and looked at all the other cats. And they had a cat, I don't know what type it was, but its fur looked purple. So I went to go and look at that one, and they said, that's gone, that's already been earmarked. That's the most popular cat in the entire building, they said. So I saw these 2 black cats, and they were called Dolly and Doris. One of them had a bit of an eye infection, and they were both at the back of the cage, and they weren't that interested in coming forward to say hello. And the story behind these cats was they were found in a schoolyard, and that is all we knew about them. They were found in a schoolyard during the summer holidays, and they'd been picked up, taken to the shelter, and they'd been there for about a year. So I saw them, and I thought, yeah, okay. There wasn't that immediate attraction there, but I thought, yeah, okay, yeah. I said, what else do you have on offer? And they went, well, yes, maybe we should have told you this sooner. Dolly and Doris, this is called the hospital because of the little drip in the eye. And unfortunately, we can't have you walking around the rest of the building because you've been in the hospital first. So I did feel as if I'd been played a bit. Take him into the hospital first, and then he can't go, and then we can get rid of these 2 who've been here for quite a while. There were other cats in the room that had come to the front of the cage and been quite playful, but these 2, they were just at the back. And I thought, radio, there's no immediate attraction here, but I'll have these 2. Now, I only wanted 1. And they did say, we can split them up, and you can have 1, and the other 1 can stay. But I said, no, if there's 2, I'll have 2. They come as a package. So we agreed. And I think, I can't remember, but I think they were free, but they suggested you made a donation to the charity. They were suggesting £80 each. So I made a £250 donation to this charity, and they said, right, we'll be over in about a week's time, because they had to wait for this eye thing to clear up, which it did. And then about a week later, they turned up with this huge cage, and they said, right, put this in the corner and leave them in this cage for about a month, and then open the door. The cage was huge. Well, I got a bit impatient. So after about 3 or 4 days, I took them upstairs and I thought, while I go out for the day, the windows were closed. While I go out for the day, I'll just open the cage up. They can come out and have a sniff. There was food there. The litter tray was there. And I thought, let's just do it this way. So I went out for the day. And I came back a few hours later, and they were still at the back of this box. But I'd put up a camera. And I thought, let's have a look what's occurring while I'm away. So while I was away, I can't remember the names now. While I was away, one of them came out and had a sniff. And then the other one came out after and had a sniff. And then very quickly went back in the box. I think they had some food and they used the toilet and then they went back in the box. So over the course of a few months, they got used to the room. And then I opened the window because they said don't leave them out for about 3 months. So I opened the window and then they went to explore the garden. And this one day, I looked at them and it was as if they were saying, every time you call us Dolly and Doris, we are reminded of the trauma of what happened in the playground, which we don't know what it was. So I looked at them and I said, what do you want to be called? And then I had the name Amber. Amber with the amber eyes and Topsy. So they became known as Amber and Topsy from that point onwards. And I've noticed now, after all this time, that we get into a groove. And at this time of year, I'm filming this in the summer, they will be very much their own people. I'll see them in the morning for a bit of food, and then they'll go for sleep all day. Then I'll see them in the night. Sometimes I can go for 2 or 3 days and don't see them at all, but I can see that the food has been eaten and I can hear them in the middle of the night. And then when the winter comes, they're a bit more social. They'll jump up on the bed and they will like all the cuddles and things. But I find that they don't really come alive until it gets to about 26 degrees. And that's when they really jump in and go in all over the place. So in London, the window would be open for weeks on end because it was hot. Because in London we'd have a heat wave from April that would go all the way through till the end of July. And then in August it would just rain. So sometimes I'd go for a week without seeing them. But I could see that the food was going down, or I'd catch a glimpse of them in the garden, or I'd be asleep and I'd hear them come in through the window. So I knew that they were okay. And when we had the heat wave, the really hot, there was one day where it was 30 degrees. Didn't see them for days. I remember that summer, it was so hot. Even pigeons, you could go up and stand next door to a pigeon and it would just be so hot, it just couldn't fly off. So we used to put the water out for the pigeons as well. So I left London, came to Wales, and in order to transport them, I didn't have a proper basket. So what I did was I used a litter tray. So I got all the stuff out and I put their favourite blankets in there. And then I put one cat in and I went to get the other cat because it was a litter tray setup. So say now I put Amber in the basket first because she's the easy one. Went to go and get Topsy and Amber to come out. So I thought this whole debacle took 5 minutes, but apparently people tell me it took about 30 minutes. They were downstairs waiting for me to get in the car to go. So I finally got them in, and then we left. We came to Wales and they were quiet as mice on the journey. They just sat there, they went asleep, they had a bit of water, had a bit of food, but they were fine. And then we got to Wales, and then again, the same advice, put them into the one room for a few days. I put them in the kitchen and the bathroom while they were in the bathroom, but they had access to the kitchen. And then they came out and then they started talking. Now, Amber will talk when she wants food or something, but Topsy has very rarely spoken. But this day they were quite verbal. So we've been in this house now for 6 months, and they kept them indoors for 3 months, plus it was the winter, so they didn't want to go out anyway. And then I slowly opened the back door and they would go out. So now 6 months later, we are in a routine of, they're very active in the morning. They'll jump on the bed for some of those little biscuity things. I've got bowls of water around the house, so they don't have to come all the way downstairs. If it's a hot day, they can stay upstairs and there's a bowl there. So they're active in the morning, then come about 10 o'clock, they'll go and have a snooze. But they've got so used to the house now, in the morning they'll sleep in the windows in the back of the house, and then in the afternoon they'll sleep in the windows in the front of the house, because that's where the sun moves around. And then we might get a bit of a flurry of activity around about 4 o'clock for about 20 minutes, and then they'll go back to sleep again. And then between 7 and, at the moment, it's about 9:30, they'll go out into the garden and stay there. And typical cats, they prefer to go into the grass of the garden next door than in my own garden. Typical. So that's why I haven't really bothered. I put some flowers into the garden, but I've left the weeds grow up, the buttercups and things, because that's what they prefer. They prefer to be amongst all the long grass. So I've left it for them. So I think they've settled in quite well. And recently I bought a chair from Too Good to Waste, which was intended for a reading chair. But now Amber's decided that it's her chair, and in the evening, what's the time? It's about 8:30 now. So in about 10 minutes, we'll probably be playing a game of Amber will go and have food, Topsy will jump in the chair for 10 minutes. So I think they've settled in quite well. And yes, it must be about 6 years, maybe even 7. I don't know, time is going really, really fast. So that is the story of Amber and Topsy, or Dolly and Doris. But I can't remember now which one was Dolly and which one was Doris. So it's Amber and Topsy. So that is the story of my cats. I'll catch you in the next Spill in the Tea. I'm actually going to go and have a lemsip because I think I've got a bit of a cold coming on. So I'll catch up with you in the next one. So from me until then, bye for now.